Hi, welcome back to the Spirit's Path. This is Dee, and today's tarot card of the day out of the Wildwood Tarot Deck is the Queen of Bows and the Hare. And we haven't seen this card in a while, just like the Three of Arrows, from yesterday, jealousy. So, what this Hare represents is she comes out of the forest, and, here you're having a heartbreak moment, okay, whether that's in career or relationship. And it's probably more relationship than anything, letting go of people that, that aren't helping you, and there's some passion that you have here. All right. But this heartbreak is it's not going well. Okay. And, this Hare comes out, this queen comes out and says, you know what? Everything's going to be all right. Okay. Because I am here to remind you of the abundance that you have. Okay, and part of that abundance is in the creativity you have, in the passion that you have. Okay, the fire burning on that wooden heart is letting you know that there's still a lot of passion in what you're doing. Okay, now the Hare is very symbolic of spring and fertility, which is counterproductive of what's going on right now in the northern hemisphere, because we're going into fall in hibernation mode. Okay, but the queen is sitting here saying, you know what, you still have a lot of abundance. Okay, you've got a lot of things going for you, with this transition moving forward. The Knight of Bows is down here, and he's asking you, what opportunity are you seizing in this moment, right? Because you've had some mourning going on, right? Your cups aren't filled, okay? And at the same time, you're instructing others. So, there may be a lot of things that you're giving out, energy-wise. You're not giving away finances or anything like that, but, you may be giving out, communication ideas, right? And giving people golden nuggets that, A, they're not used to, getting from you, but, B, on the other side of that, they're kind of like, oh, that's a good idea. Okay, this queen, the queens in this card deck, the way I kind of look at it is they rule the castle. So this queen knows everything that's going on in her castle when it comes to creativity, whether that's somebody going to have a new baby versus the blacksmith creating a new weapon. Okay, so she knows everything that's going on within the castle. And as a queen, she's nurturing in that aspect. She's very sympathetic and understanding, okay? And like all the other queens, she's going to provide you guidance on your success on your journey, okay? And the journey right now is using that air as well as that fire energy to move forward in the passion that you have, okay? Maybe that heartbreak was a passion of being in another industry. And now you find yourself settled in, and you can kind of give up that thought process saying, you know what? I'm never going to be an NFL quarterback. All right? I've strived for that, and, I don't even get a look. So I'm going to have to, move forward into something else. Maybe I'm going to be, an NHL goalie or something like that. And that's just, those are high-level analogies. But, if you've been in your career for a little bit, and you aspire to be at a certain level and you're not there yet, well, the passion's still there for you to move forward, but maybe the opportunity's not. Okay, so you have to use your thought process, that creative energy, all right, to open up other people's eyes to show that you're worthy of moving forward. And then if that doesn't work, if the boss says, you know what, we don't have a position like that, that's where that heartbreak comes in, because, hey, I've really set my eyes on being, department head or whatever. Okay, and it's just not happening. So, when the queen sees that, she says, you know what, you're a great blacksmith, but you can't make a sword. What you're good at is you're good at making horseshoes for horses. And guess what? When you do that, our horses are more stable. They're able to pull larger loads, right? So here she is, she's supportive of you. She's going to have that witty, wise, conversation with you, to joke around with stuff. And at the same time, she's going to be very gentle and kind. Okay. Now, with the court cards, I like to talk about, if this is you or a person in your life, these could be some recognizable traits. Okay. They're going to be very popular with everybody. That Queen of Bows, the Hare is going to, go around to everybody and talk with everybody. And, she's going to know what's going on in the castle. She's going to be very dedicated. She's going to be a very dedicated person to make sure she makes her rounds. All right. Yeah, she may have that entourage of knights, surrounding her. But for the most part, those that she trusts, she's going to go to. Okay, now this could be somebody in your life, somebody that you can talk to, or maybe you're that person where everybody comes and talks to you. Okay, and when somebody comes to talk to you, you're going to be you're going to be committed to their defense. Okay, or take their side on their story. If the blacksmith's wife's coming up, she's he's trying to make the sword, and she's like, you know what, it's all right. We have to believe in him to make the best sword possible. But let's talk to him and, see how well he's doing. And if he's having an issue, maybe we can get him some instruction. Maybe we can get him some training on how to be better at that, so where we're not breaking his heart. And the wife is kind of like, yes, I understand. He is my husband, and, he does good work on horseshoes, but I just don't think he can make a sword. I don't think he can make a shield. And those are just analogies. So if this is an aspect of something that's going on, in your workplace or in your relationship, okay, you or this other person is going to be very sympathetic. They're going to have a lot of empathy towards what's going on, all right? And at the same time, there's going to be some jealousy out there, right? It's not that he can't, the blacksmith can't make that perfect, singing sword, okay? But there's no use in him going and looking at the other blacksmith who can do that, who has the skill set at a higher level of using different metals, to look at that and say, I want to be like him. That's where that jealousy comes into play, right? Because now he wants to do what the other guy does, the other blacksmith. And what he's doing is he's putting more blessings on him. Instead of looking at his craft, all right, and not being a rival to him, he should look at it and say, you know what, let me go over there and learn from that other blacksmith to, how do you work with these different metals, to make a stronger sword, and do some instruction, right? Instead of having that jealous aspect, right? And that, aspect could be very unpredictable within somebody. They just might snap and boom, there goes their high energy into a low vibrational anger energy. The blacksmith might be pounding, making that sword, and it breaks, and he just loses all control. He's throwing things around the shop, right? So you have to look at that, as the Hare. If you see something like that, you have to be sympathetic and, have some empathy toward it, toward the person that you see, going through that situation. If this is an event that you're at or that you're going to, it may not agree with you, but there's going to be some courteous understanding of what's going on when you're gaining that knowledge. Okay, and it's going to help to create that creative ambition that you have. All right, to rehave that passion, that flame. Okay, so let's use that in a blacksmith situation. Okay, he may see his other blacksmith in the castle as a rival. Okay, but if he goes over there and he takes on the Hare aspect, and he's sympathetic and empathetic to this guy, he doesn't know the other blacksmith's story. He may be overwhelmed. He could use the help. All right, and he may say, hey, I want to learn some of this, and at the same time, I can help you meet your demand. Okay, that helps with the original blacksmith's creative ambition. Okay, and they're able to talk about stuff. They're able to, become, and the first blacksmith is able to get some more instruction, all right, to help him understand stuff. And at the same time, he's helping somebody else out. Okay, so, therein lies a business opportunity. Okay, those are the type of events that you want to look at, if you're taking on that event or that aspect of that Queen of Bows and the Hare. That's how she looks at things, okay? And through that conversation, whether, the blacksmith's wife is having it with the Queen of Bows, the Hare, or you're having that, that question, that conversation with her. She's going to look at you and say, if you're in a leadership role and you're working on trying to, redevelop this passion, how do you influence those around you? Do you do so in a demeaning way? Or do you do so in a very supportive, empathetic, sympathetic way, right? Encouraging you to learn, encouraging you to go over to the other blacksmith to learn how to work with different metals, right? And through that process, you raise your vibrational spirit. Here she is asking you the question, and she's really nurturing you in your craft, okay? And you can have those aspects when you're at work or in a relationship. Okay, and it's just, hey, honey, what do you think about going on this vacation? And then the kids hear that, and they're like, oh, we might be going on vacation. Your significant other may not think you can afford it, but she's like, you know what, I've been saving these pennies. We don't have to do Disney World, but we could do, a Dolly World. Totally two different genres, but at the same time, a vacation is a vacation. And we could do that. Or, hey, we don't have to go to Florida. Let's just go up north for a weekend trip and go camping. Look at the fall colors. Enjoy the weekend, right? You can influence that decision, versus expensive versus, inexpensive type opportunities. And then the other question that she does ask is, where do you need to be more understanding? As you're going through, your castle and you're talking to your significant other and talking to your children and understanding, how school is going, understanding how their work is going, you're becoming more understanding of what it is they're going through. And vice versa, when you communicate correctly with them, okay, they understand what's going on in your work situation. And then through that whole process, you're strengthening the family bond. You're communicating with your significant other. You're communicating with your kids and seeing their being empathetic and sympathetic to their needs. And they in turn are going to, bring that back to you. And when you have that cohesiveness and everybody's on the same page, everybody's vibrational energy starts lifting. Yours gets even better, right? Because you take on that Queen of Bows, that Hare, that nurturing energy, right? And it may feel like spring where you're giving birth, okay, to a new process, giving birth to that new passion that this Queen of Bows, stands for, this Hare. So that's today's card of the day out of the Wildwood Tarot Deck, Queen of Bows and the Hare. Hit that like button for me, subscribe to the channel, share with others, give me a thumbs up. And this is D for a Spirit's Path. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care, God bless, and stay safe, everybody.